Hi there. Thanks for joining us today. I am Megan Moeller, a productivity enthusiast here at ActivTrak, and I get to be your tour guide of sorts for today. We will get started in just a couple of minutes. I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to come in and even get warmed up a little bit by taking our first poll of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up right now. We're really interested in learning about, your challenges that you're facing in your day to day. But we're really curious around what is your biggest challenge with your current workplace or return to work policy. So if you're looking at the poll, which should be like in the middle of the top middle of your screen, you can see these different options, and you're going to want to make sure that you scroll down because there are quite a few. And we do want to make sure that we know what is going on with you. So this is kind of our nice little warm-up question. Really curious to see what you have to say there. And as you take that poll, I'm going to go ahead and go through a few housekeeping items. I would really love to, one, just welcome you if this is your first time with us. It's really great to have you. I hope you really enjoy this session. And I see some people who have been on before, so welcome back. I'm really happy to see you as well. I did want to mention just, we have this console, which is, I think, pretty amazing, but I just want to orient you to where everything is. So if we take a look at the console in thirds, you'll see, a left side, a middle section, and a right section. Starting in the top left, that's where you should see speakers. So that's where you should see me right now. Immediately below that, we have a question box where you can submit questions, or if you just want to chat in, that's where to do it. We always enjoy hearing from you on the back end, and I know I've had some really great discussions that way as well. In the middle section, you'll see slides up at the top, so that's where you should see the poll right now. So please do take this poll, scroll down, look at all the choices, and give us your feedback. That really helps us to kind of understand what's going on in your organization, whether that's from how we're, building the product or how we better serve you, even with creating really great content that can help you be educated on what's going on with those things and resources that you can use. Right below that poll question, you'll also see two modules, one with related resources for things that have to do with today's session. And right at the top, you'll see a link that is for ActivTrak 101. And this is a office hours style live session with our customer success and sales engineering team. And so this is a little bit more of an intimate session. They will talk about several things on like active and passive time, role access, things that have to do with, configuring ActivTrak to make sure that you have it set up correctly. Having that set up correct is imperative to making sure that all of your reports are showing you the right data, giving you accurate insights into what's going on in your org. So whether you are new, which the 101 sort of conveys, right? Whether you're new or whether you've been with us for a while, it's always a great idea to take a look at your configuration. And that session is a great resource to handle any of those questions or things where you can, actually come off speaker, ask the question, have some dialogue, ask some specifics about your org. So I cannot recommend that highly enough. That is next Friday, October 17th. And again, that's more of a live office hour style session. So highly encourage you to sign up for that. And then we've got the other resources that are related to today's session content in case you want to dig into any of those in more detail. So I think that covers the resources. And then on the right, you can get to know our speakers a little bit better. We've got some bios for them, and you can go ahead and kind of get to know a little bit more about them. I will give them a very quick brief introduction in a moment. And then the other thing that you should see along the bottom, you should see some emoji reactions. And so we would really love your feedback as we go along. One that helps me understand as I'm thinking through how we educate and help you with the things that you're facing. What is really resonating with you? What do you like? What do you not like? I also like that it puts a little pressure on our speakers, to also kind of think through some of this content with me as we deliver it. Two final housekeeping items. We are recording this session, and we will send it along with the slides and all of these resources out no later than tomorrow, you will actually have access to this dashboard, this whole console with the resources and everything. It functions now and it will function after the event. So it's a really great resource for you to be able to come back to, but we will send an email to the email that you registered with and send you the links to it so that you have that, and it's really easy. Okay, we had you taking this poll, and so I'm really curious to see what y'all had to say. Okay, so as far as the biggest challenge, okay, I'm just scrolling down to kind of see, and thanks everyone for scrolling down, because I do see that you did select some not sures or you're not experiencing challenges, which is wonderful to hear on that front. But it looks like we have a high amount, 31.4% on getting consistent compliance without damaging morale. That makes sense. It also makes sense why you're attending this session. So I think we're going to cover some of those things. And then ensuring equity between employees working remotely and those working in the office. Okay, this is really great feedback, and I'm going to take this back to the team so that we can use this moving forward. And maybe we'll have a session on one of these other hot topics. So all right, well, with that in mind, what I would like to do right now is I would like to go ahead and invite our speakers on camera with me for us to actually go through and cover our session today using ActivTrak to audit and manage compliance across your workforce. We have our senior sales engineer, Leah Ivory, on with us. And from our product team, we have Chris Michael, who's on. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. Well, they will take you through much of today's session. You are in good hands. I'm going to be in the background though, so pop in those questions, put in those comments, say hello. Super excited about this session. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Chris.
All right. Thanks so much, Megan. We're really excited to discuss how exactly ActivTrak can help you when it comes to auditing and managing compliance. So today we're going to be covering some of the challenges you might come across in the workplace, how we can help alleviate some of those issues by ensuring your workforce is complying with your policies, including scheduling, where people work, time off, AI usage, and a lot more. So our solutions can help detect risk in real time, as well as automate and roll up the reporting of when expectations aren't met. Really what we call exceptions or infractions. All of these together provide full visibility while also providing meaningful context to give you the full picture. We'll also be taking a look at how we can help audit your organization's technology usage to ensure workforces are using only the software that you want them to. And if they're not, hopefully this leads to understanding why. Do they just need more training, or do they just need do they not need the licenses? I mean, regardless, you can potentially save on a lot of costs right there. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, as you've all experienced, the workplace has changed pretty dramatically over the last few years. It was already trending in the direction where we've moved in, but the pandemic really accelerated that transformation by a couple of decades, according to some, almost overnight. The rapid adoption of hybrid and remote work created a bit of a ripple effect where we saw workplaces become increasingly distributed, highly digital, whereas it used to be a lot more balanced between digital and in-person interactions. Now it's common to find a workplace operating entirely digitally 90 to 100% of the time. Now, in the aftermath of that workforce transformation, we've started to see some back and forth regarding how workforces are going to look moving forward. We've seen a lot of companies stay remote. We've seen a lot of companies mandate that their employees need to return to an office. And then there are companies that have adopted the hybrid approach. And as you know, all of these approaches have delivered mixed results. Now we have the added variable of AI solutions being thrown into the mix. And once again, we're witnessing a total disruption to workforce traditions. And the challenges that you see on your screens are a direct result of that. So these challenges aren't just headaches. They're creating real, measurable impacts on your bottom line and your ability to manage effectively. Visibility into time worked has become a genuine puzzle. When your team is distributed across time zones and working hybrid schedules, how do you know actually when people are working? And I'm not talking about micromanaging every minute. What I'm talking about is more having enough visibility to manage workload, ensure coverage, and make informed decisions. Without this visibility, you're essentially flying blind. So then there's unused workforce capacity, and This one's particularly frustrating because you're paying for resources you can't fully utilize. Maybe you've got team members working well below their potential hours, or you've got people with skills sitting idle that could be deployed elsewhere. It is a lot like paying for a gym membership and never going, which is something I'm very guilty of, except that it's happening across your entire workforce. So with tech resources and office space waste, honestly, who among us hasn't looked at their licensing bills and wondered if we're actually getting value from all the tools that we're paying for? And with hybrid work, you might be maintaining expensive office space that's sitting empty most of the days, or you've got software licenses that are barely being touched. It quickly becomes death by 1,000 subscriptions. And then finally, low productivity and efficiency. And this isn't about pointing fingers. It's about recognizing that when people aren't aligned with their schedules, when they're using the wrong tools, or whether they're unclear about expectations, productivity naturally suffers. And that has cascading effects on everything from customer satisfaction to revenue generation. Now, when we look at how customers are actually using workforce analytics, and this is the fun part because it just shows how versatile this approach can be, we see a spectrum ranging from cost optimization all the way through to revenue generation. You've got everything here from technology compliance and policy adherence through utilization and productivity coaching, all the way to correlating performance data with actual business outcomes like sales or customer satisfaction scores. It's quite the journey. But today, and I promise I'm not just saying this to keep us on schedule, we're just going to focus on the two boxes to the far left, which is technology compliance and policy and schedule adherence. Because frankly, if you don't have a handle on these foundational elements, everything else becomes that much harder to achieve. You can't optimize what you can't see, and you can't improve what you can't measure. So before I hand this off to Leah, I want to quickly revisit ActivTrak's workforce management framework, of which the tools that will help you audit and manage your policy and schedule compliance are a huge part of. Unlike traditional workforce management solutions, and I say this having seen way too many clunky systems that were built before remote work, back when it was just taking your laptop to a conference room, ActivTrak is purpose-built for today's workforce. We're talking about remote and hybrid teams, people spread across multiple locations, working different schedules, and operating across various digital platforms. What makes us different? Well, not only are we the only company that offers an all-in-one end-to-end approach for workforce management, but we proudly provide a unique approach with a few key characteristics. The first of which is that we are privacy first. Let's be honest, nobody wants to feel like Big Brother is watching. And this isn't about surveillance, it's about providing context and insights. We're really giving you a complete picture by integrating both digital activity and non-digital activity like work meetings. Now, this data is highly accurate, it's policy aware, so it understands your specific workplace rules, and perhaps more importantly, it's context aware, so it doesn't just give you numbers without meaning. The administration is largely automated because who has time to babysit yet another system? And the insights are actually actionable. So there's no more just drowning in data without knowing what to do with it. Now, let's look at what this actually looks like in practice. What can you actually do with ActivTrak when it comes to auditing and managing compliance? Let me go back to this one. First up, you're going to be ensuring workforce compliance with schedules and policies. You can monitor schedule start and end times, catch late starts and early departures, track overall productive hours, and even verify contractor billing against actual work hours. It's sort of like having a really detail-oriented chief of staff who never forgets to check if everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing it, minus the feeling of someone breathing down your neck. Second would be detecting risks in real time and automating exception management. And here we're just talking about using alarms to catch things like mouse-jiggler technology. Yes, that's still a thing. And yes, people are still trying it despite the obvious futility. Or unauthorized access to sensitive personal identifying information, or employees watching Netflix during company hours. These alarms let you catch issues before they become real problems. Instead of manually sifting through data, you can set up notifications for late or incomplete work days and automated reports that identify patterns, like employees consistently falling short of productivity baselines or working fewer days than expected. It really is like having a compliance radar that spots the blips you need to pay attention to when you need to pay attention to them. And then finally, we're going to be talking about optimizing technology usage. And you can assess which software licenses are actually being used. Spoiler alert, it's probably not all of them. And then you can monitor AI tool adoption to understand both the opportunities and risks. Because in 2025, if you're not keeping an eye on how AI tools are being deployed in your organization, you're going to have some really interesting conversations with your compliance team. So with that foundation in place, I'm going to pass things off to Leah, who is going to walk us through exactly how this works on the platform with a live demo.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Go ahead and share my screen here for us. Great. And thank you for setting up the stage. By the way, it is important to know why exactly we have invested in these features. And while we've discussed reducing risk in a variety of ways, as we will see today, I'm excited to start with our newer and highly requested schedule adherence. Proper schedule adherence and attendance is at the heart of reducing risk for your organization. By taking organic activity data and slicing it by scheduled parameters, we have these schedules up top here. Our schedule adherence report helps managers and leaders confirm whether their employees were first and foremost in the right working location for that day, whether it's remote, office, or if they had a hybrid day, starting at home and then working in the office later, or vice versa. How much productive time occurred during their scheduled hours, what percent of the goal was reached based on the expected time, whether they had time off, approved time off in the HRIS system. We will absolutely be circling back to this. If there was a late start to their shift, by how much? If there was an early end, what was the delta? If there was productive time outside of their scheduled hours, this is helping our leaders validate overtime worked, a key piece of compliance, especially if certain individuals are accruing large amounts of overtime. Are they putting in the appropriate amount of time during their shift first? Or there may indeed be employees who are working overtime who are also working all through the day, which is a glaring opportunity to increase efficiency, reduce our burnout risk, something we'll touch on throughout our demo today. To complement all of this digital activity, you also have offline meetings, something present throughout our reports. This here is time where there was no digital activity taking place on the device, but there was a valid meeting on the calendar. As Chris mentioned, we're complementing digital activity with non-digital. We will ensure that this time is taken into consideration for the employee and rolled into this last metric over here, work time, so that as leaders, you really do have a full picture here of business appropriate activity in your assessment. On this report, there are a few key items and metrics I want to highlight. So first and foremost, we're going to go back to this time off data here. We are currently in early access with this feature and have an initial list of 10 different HRIS systems where data integrates into ActivTrak from your system to make sure that we're looking at approved time off. And that may be a partial day, a full day, sick days, company holidays, vacation days. We'll have more information later on how to get access to this specifically. Next, in addition to being able to set a quick entry schedule here, so my team works from 8 to 5, 8:30 to 5:30 with a 60-minute break, whatever that may be, you do have the ability to actually configure schedules in your settings so that they're saved for your different groups and teams.
Hey, Leah.
Yes.
We had a question that I think is just good to address in the moment, because I know the schedule adherence has definitely been very much requested, but there's also a world where people who aren't working on a set schedule, but they're expected to work, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Is this the right, view to be able to look at that? Or is there another one that we have that would be better for that view or an option?
Yeah, so it's a great question. This is definitely an option, as you do have the ability to say, hey, how much time should they be putting in? And so while at first you can definitely look at this and say, well, sure, it's for people who have a set 9 to 5, things like that. We do actually have organizations who will use this to say, hey, well, sure, they might be salaried and we expect 8 hours a day, but we do expect people to be available during core hours, which might be 10 to 3, something like that. There is a different report that I would recommend leveraging first, though, and we're actually going to show it today. Reason being, the activity breakdown report that we'll show does go off of, hey, we expect X number of hours, and that doesn't have to be during set times. That report also actually has the ability to have an exception sent to you to where if those expectations aren't met, again, regardless of the time, you actually get a report sent to you as a leader so that your focus is guided there as well. So this is an option for sure with the expected time there, but there's another report that I would recommend first. It's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah.
My pleasure. Excellent. Along the lines of this, for auditing for schedules, we do have a brand new report that takes all of that data that we just saw and aggregates it so that trends in those same findings are surfaced. This is schedule performance. This report can be subscribed and just dropped in your inbox as a leader and used to have better coaching conversations to get employees back in compliance. And so if we're looking at this for the last 14 days, Jim here as an example, instead of saying you seem to be late a lot, you can say, hey, the data shows that you have started after 9 a.m., your shift time, 4 times in the last 14 days, right? And so again, I'm not having to go through line by line on the last report. This aggregates it, surfaces it for me. I have data instead of sentiment. Real numbers make the conversations more productive and less personal ultimately. Someone with low goal achievement during our schedule, so talking about that 8 hours, so Michael here as an example, sitting at 44%, they might have an attendance problem, so a lot of days coming in late, which clearly actually isn't the case for Michael. I don't see that happening here. Or they might have a productivity problem, like poor focus during their scheduled hours, and they might actually be working outside of their scheduled hours, which is exactly what I'm seeing here. So the data shows you which conversations to have. With Michael, it's not that he's coming in late, it's that he's not able to focus during the time that I need him to be focusing. On the note of location, when we want to really hone in on that return to office auditing, our location insight report does just the job. We determine a user's location using signals from the device itself, which makes the detection much more reliable than, say, a badge system, as an example. Location for us is labeled as either office when the entire day was spent inside the office environment, remote when the entire day was spent outside of an office environment, or of course you have the office remote as mentioned when, again, they might start at home, come into the office later, or vice versa. You'll notice that this is one of the mini reports where, again, you have the offline meeting, that peach color here. It's being incorporated in to make sure that both digital and non-digital activity is accounted for, especially when we're coming into the office. We might be meeting more in person, collaborating. That's the point of coming into the office. So we're making sure that that time is in the assessment. On the users tab on this report, this provides the breakdown analysis that I need of, again, how many days an employee spent in the office, remote, or whether they came in for a little bit to the office, allowing me to quickly identify whether our policies are being adhered to. So if the ask is to come in, 3 times a week, if I'm looking at the last month or whatever time frame I need, I can verify whether that is being adhered to. And so we have some folks, leaders, HR, whoever it may be, who will just have this subscribed into their inbox weekly, monthly basis to make sure that, again, people are coming in as asked. I do even have the ability to click on an individual user and down below have a little additional context to see which specific days they came into the office. So if the policy is, hey, we come in on Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as an example, you have that information to verify along with how much productive time they had during that day. For the last report around adhering to schedule expectations, we'll look at it through a slightly different lens. A lot of our customers here at ActivTrak will leverage our integration offering called ActiveConnect and blend their ActivTrak data with other, often third-party, but might be just other metrics impacting their business, data. So contractor billing has been a common use case for this, and we've just seen it pop up more and more often lately. Here we have the ActivTrak data of how many productive hours users in each group, department, or team have actually worked, a middle layer of the cost for those contractors, and how much they billed to find the difference in billable hours and the financial impact of that. So looking at this data across my organization, all in all, just in 1 month, we had 18 people have excess billed hours for our contractors, costing us almost $20K, just again in August alone. I can drill down to see which specific teams had the most users, again, have conversations with those leaders of those departments, hold them accountable, and make sure that with the trend data, this doesn't happen again next month. Okay, that covers it for our schedule adherence portion. So Chris, I'm going to send it back to you, sir, to take us in briefly to our next session.
And I'm actually going to jump in just real quick. I want to give everyone an opportunity. Everything that Leah just went through and that Chris talked through and kind of set the stage on. If you are interested in getting early access to signals, or if you are looking at, wanting to talk to someone about that HRIS integration, so that's that time off component of the schedule adherence, that is an add-on. So if you want to talk to someone about getting that into your system, please let us know here. Or if you are wanting to explore ActiveConnect, which is, how you can actually connect your data in ActivTrak to other systems or spreadsheets or any of that stuff that Leah just mentioned. But this contractor billing one, as she mentioned, is super popular, especially as people are kind of doing reconciliation at the end of the year for, what they've been, putting out for, budgeting and things like that. So just wanted to make sure that you'll have an opportunity to raise your hand and let us know if you are interested in this at all. Also, if you are not a customer yet, but these are things that really piqued your interest and you'd really like to talk more about them with someone, go ahead and let us know that you would like a demo. So you can I'm going to give you a minute to chime in here. And if you want to just select one of the boxes, you can do that on the slide. So I'm just going to leave that up for just a second. And then I will turn it over to Chris in I'm going to close it out in like 10 seconds. Okay. And also, I want to say I appreciate the comments and the questions in the background, and hopefully we've been getting those questions answered live. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move this forward. Chris, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Megan. Thank you, Leah, for that great demo. So next, I want to talk about the two different types of notifications that ActivTrak offers: activity alarms and automated exception reports. Now, both of these serve fundamentally different purposes. So on the one side, we have activity alarms, and these are your real-time alerts. Think of them as your early warning sign. These fire the moment something concerning happens, like someone's using an activity mimicking tool, or they're accessing information they shouldn't be touching, or they're playing online poker at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when they should be in a client meeting. the fun stuff. These alarms fall into three main categories. The first of which is cheating the system. And I wish we didn't have to have this conversation, but here we are. So this catches mouse jigglers and other physical tools that people use to fake activity, because apparently some folks missed the memo that we're measuring outcomes, not just mouse activity. The next would be incorrect business tool use. And this is when someone unintentionally accesses PII, exposes sensitive information, or uses AI tools in a risky way. And I want to emphasize unintentionally here. More often than not, these aren't malicious acts, these mistakes that someone might have clicked the wrong link or opens the wrong file or pastes something into ChatGPT that shouldn't have left your network. These alarms let you catch it immediately and allow you to turn it into a coaching moment rather than a compliance nightmare. And the last we'll cover is non-business activity. This is like gaming when people should be working, watching streaming services, spending hours on social media. Again, we're all human, people take breaks, but when it becomes a pattern and these people are, spending 3 hours on Amazon as opposed to working, then it just becomes a bigger issue. So lastly, we also have automated exception reports, and these are different. They're cumulative. They look at patterns over a day, a week, or a month. And this is kind of where you catch non-compliant work patterns, like people working consistently less than 3 hours of productive time per day, or missing work on days they're supposed to be there. The difference matters because you manage these situations differently. An activity alarm requires immediate attention, like, hey, what's happening right now? And an exception report is more about trends, more of a let's talk about what's happening over the past few weeks kind of thing. So when do you actually use these? And let me give you some real world scenarios that customers tell us about all the time. For one, who tries to cheat the system? This is your mouse-jiggler detection, your fake activity identification. Not the most fun conversation to have with an employee, but better to catch it early. The next would be who uses the wrong tools to do their job. Maybe your sales team is using free versions of a tool that you've already paid an enterprise license for with better security, or maybe they're using a competitor's product because they don't realize you have something better internally. Who uses software tools that put the company at risk? Unsanctioned AI tools, shadow IT, applications that haven't been vetted by your security team. These are all things that keep your IT and compliance folks up at night. And then lastly, who spends too much time on non-business activities? Shopping, entertainment, gaming during work hours. A little is normal, we're not robots, but when it's going on for hours at a time during a day, it's time to have a conversation. And then there's the cumulative patterns, like who worked less than X productive hours per day yesterday, or who worked less than X days for this given time period. These help you spot disengagement, burnout, or compliance issues before they escalate. Now, the beauty of this system is that it takes what used to require someone manually pulling reports and doing analysis. And if you're on this webinar, there's a pretty solid chance that that was you. This now automates it. You get the alerts when you need them in the format that you want them. So you can actually do something about it rather than discovering problems 3 months later during a quarterly review. Now, with that, I'm going to pass you back to Leah so she can walk you through the setup and functionality of these notifications.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Yeah, first and foremost, we'll go ahead and check out where we can go ahead and set up our alarms. The alarms piece, as Chris mentioned. So the alarms alert you in real time to activities that, again, may pose the security risk, impact your data accuracy, allowing you to take that immediate action. The alarms work like an if-then statement. So when the specified condition is met, they're going to trigger your defined actions. We do have quite a few available out of the box based on what we've seen most common across our user base that you can come on in and enable. And so these in here are for things like job searching. You have the entertainment break one as an example, or the PFA. And so these are the potential false activity alarms, which can detect, again, the devices that may be mimicking activity. So think, again, your mouse jigglers. There's a few different ones of the PFAs. You have repetitive activity, you have high duration. So if we see someone is, and this is a common one, we see someone active nonstop in Excel without going passive or idle, without clicking anywhere else for a single second. That is just not normal human behavior. And I bring up the Excel one because it is floating around Reddit. You can get an Excel macro that just randomizes and keeps you active. We have seen it. So I bring up the example, but any of these out of the box ones, I'm going to go to the entertainment break one as an example. We're going to edit one of the existing alarms. You'll see that you can decide whether the alarm applies to all of the groups and users or just specific ones. Which conditions are going to trigger the alarms for you. So it may be specific websites or tools. If I come in to add a condition, that may be a specific duration on the tool. So Chris mentioned, especially for entertainment break, people might go to YouTube for a few seconds or a few minutes, which might be okay to pick their song, get their music going in the background while they're working, that's okay. But, if they're on there actively for 10, 15 minutes, an hour, that is when we want to be notified, right? It may be that the title bar of what they're accessing contains specific keywords. All of this to say that there are tons of different ways that you can make sure that what you're being notified about is what is important to your organization. You can also edit any of the existing conditions that we have on our out of the box alarms for you. When the alarm is triggered as well, the important piece is how you want to be notified. It may be an email notification down here. So is it a specific person who gets an email notification, a distribution list, or you can even set up a private Slack or Teams channel to get the notification as well. The alarms also have a risk level that can be associated. This shows up in two different ways. One, when I get a notification that the alarm is triggered, I see what the alarm is and how high of a risk, so I can determine whether immediate action is needed. Do I need to stop what I'm doing, intervene? And two, there is actually a risk level report here where we will identify those users who are engaging in higher risk activities for you. Going back to our alarms page, in addition to these pre-built out-of-the-box alarms, you do have the ability to create completely custom alarms too. And so with this, you can create an activity alarm where, again, this is actions happening on the end user's machine, as we just covered, a USB being inserted or storage written to it, or even actions happening in your ActivTrak account, like admins making changes, logins from unknown IP addresses, or agents not reporting as well. So a few different ways that you can be alerted for your alarms. I wanted to show you as well what an example of the email might look like. So I have an example of the job searching coming to my inbox. It'll have the user just based on how I have it set up. It'll say what the alarm was, the exact time, and it even has some extra information. So what the website was, I can be taken right to the URL. There, again, as we saw, is options to customize what the email looks like, but it just comes right to you right as you need it. Great. Another common notification our customers, especially our leaders, want is around productivity. So this is moving more into the exception reporting that Chris mentioned. So who within my team or department is not meeting our productivity expectations, may be disengaged? Who alternatively is not meeting, who alternatively may be exceeding expectations and putting themselves at risk of burnout? So I know there was a question earlier around, the 8-hour expectations. It may not be a 9 to 5. This report, activity breakdown, this is one that I would go to first. So instead of going through all of the data, here we're at a more aggregate type report with activity breakdown, and I'm on the users tab specifically. This one gives me a holistic view across all the employees that I oversee. And I can use this more tab over here, this more filter, excuse me, over here, and say, hey, based on the unique expectations for how my team functions, I'm thinking of the digital expectations. I'm taking into consideration break time, right? We are human. I'm going to say that for my team, anyone who's working over 9 hours a day on average, it might be 9.5. Anyone who's under 4.5 as an example, filter this report, subscribe this filtered version to myself. I have no one over 9, which is great to see right now, but I'm going to filter this and subscribe the filtered version to myself and have that dropped in my inbox at whatever cadence I need. It might be daily, it might be weekly. Most people get it weekly. That way, as a leader, I know where to guide my focus. I have my outliers. So you do have the option when you're setting up your subscription to either attach a PDF, or you can just have the image dropped in your email as well. You can add a personal email message in here. You can update the title, really whatever you see fit, right? It's coming to you. That way you get the data where you need, wherever you see fit. This is actually an example as well of what that email might look like. So I gave it the title of, hey, employees under 5 hours. Here are my employees under 5 hours. Here's a link that'll take me right to the dashboard, right to the right individuals. But again, I chose the image option. So it just straight up has, here are my employees that I need to focus on. It has their time across productive, unproductive. You still have the offline meeting there, and then where their time has been allocated. So again, a different type of notification where I know the individuals who are outside of the compliance boundaries, whether it's under or over, to make sure that I know who might be at risk of burnout as well. Great. The last week. Oh, yes.
Before we move on, we did have a question around multiple screens or tabs and the alarm use case. So if someone is using multiple screens, like let's say they have YouTube on one screen playing, but then they have Excel on the other screen where the agent is working, will their manager still receive an alarm for the YouTube if it's open in like a background tab or on a second screen?
If the alarm condition is just for them accessing YouTube and it doesn't have like a specified duration on it, when they access YouTube for the first time, yes, they will get that alarm triggered because the agent is gathering time wherever the employee is actively engaged. So there will be some point where they do first access YouTube to play it or whatever. So yes, I do want to be clear though, since we do gather time wherever the employee is engaged, sure, they might, start their day, they click into YouTube, we would trigger the alarm at that moment. The second that they click into another tab or tool and actually work, they're going to be getting credit for that activity. But if your alarm, again, is just if they access YouTube, you're still going to be getting the alarm notification.
Okay, so you just need to be specific in what you're looking for on those alarms.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so like if you did add the duration condition on that alarm of like more than X seconds, if they did just click on YouTube to pick a song and it didn't meet the duration threshold and they clicked on something else before the duration was met, then you wouldn't get that.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
My pleasure. That was a good question. Excellent. Okay, the very last piece of risk alerting that I am thrilled to discuss today, because this feature is still in early access, but they let me spill the beans on it. Still in line with productivity alerting is our productivity signals. These trigger off of the schedule adherence report, which is the very first one that I showed y'all today, where we take the organic activity, slice it by the scheduled parameters. And so having those schedules set up will be key to using this feature. These signals allow your managers and leaders to get timely alerts about attendance issues, reducing the time that they're checking reports and dashboards, making sure that they can get quicker action, reducing the amount of auditing and compliance corrections that they need to do. So as you see here, you can have a notification sent if someone has a late start to their shift, an early end to their shift, or an incomplete day, which is where they did not meet the hour expectations. And so as an example, if somebody is scheduled to work an 8-hour shift, but they only work 7 in their scheduled time. And so you can come on in here and simply set up the signals using add signal. So what group does it apply to? If I oversee marketing as an example, what signal type? So it might be late start, and then who needs it? And so it might be someone who's already in your instance, or someone, it might be a custom one. So I can actually type in any email address, Leah@gmail as an example. The cool thing with this, the ability to add in just a custom recipient is new for this, brand new, which is very cool. So they don't have to be added in as like a app access user. For these, here is an example of what this notification might look like. So these folks were late to their shift. They were scheduled to work at 7 and we did not see activity on their computers. So I got a schedule infraction email as their manager. So I was able to know before having to log into ActivTrak, before knowing anything about them being late, I got this delivered right to my inbox. Excellent. Perfect. So that covers it for our notifications and alerting piece. I'm going to give it back to y'all one last time to quickly tee up just our technology piece. And then we are almost on to our last bit of demoing.
Might be muted, Megan.
Yeah, so I was like, isn't the office
muted? Sorry about that. No, I think we're going to move right into the demo on this piece.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Oh, good deal. Okay, I'm in our office today, and sometimes the Wi-Fi is questionable. So I was like, is that me? Okay,
no, it
excellent.
was me. It was the girl who's on the webinars all the time did not have her audio on. Apologies, everyone. Sorry about that.
All good. Okay, excellent. Well, then perfect. We'll go right into our technology piece. I know we have about 15 minutes left, so I'll be mindful of time here. I do really only have 2 reports to show you guys for the technology bit, though. But Chris mentioned at the beginning of our time today that an unexpected AI use in your organization will bring some fun conversations with your compliance and your IT teams. And he is not wrong. This is a conversation we're having with our organizations regularly. While yes, you can set the alarms that we just mentioned and be notified if certain tools are being used like DeepSeek, the technology usage report here could be leveraged in a multitude of ways. And one is to check on your AI use. And so here on the overview tab, I'm actually going to switch my category to AI tools and assistants, just looking at over the last month as an example, which will show anything that has been categorized as AI. And so whether that's by me or auto-classified by ActivTrak, which may actually show tools that I have no idea were being used. And so this here is a great example. I can not only confirm that my team is actually using Claude AI, which is great since we invested in it. 22 people here are using it, but I have spotted that one person is using Gemini Google, which is not something that I have approved. If I want to know who exactly is using it, I can double click here and the adoption tab will tell me I'm not going to out this person. The adoption tab here, more importantly, provides the ability for me to hone in on any of the tools that we have invested in and confirm whether my team is actually using that tool. I'm going to remove the AI filter here. And we're going to focus on Salesforce as an example, one of our more expensive tools, if you know on this one. And so as we get closer to our annual license renewal with them, I want to make sure that we are making use of the licenses that we're paying for today. So this data here, looking at Salesforce, again, this list is going to show anything that the agent has seen across your organization. It's telling me that 26 people are actively using it over the last month. I pay for 40 licenses, so this is a problem. On the left, a key metric, in addition to understanding who is just logging into the tool, is how long each person uses the tool when they log in, the duration in minutes. And so if someone logs into something for 5 minutes a month, do they really need that license? This data can be used to either spark training conversations, reminders about which tools are in or against compliance, or be used during your renewal conversations to right-size your license count. For the very last report today, we're going to take the same data and leverage one of our pre-built templates for Power BI. So back in Power BI here in ActivConnect, so that I can apply the actual cost of the software license for my tools and see how much this unused license spend is in terms of potential savings for us. And so I'm going to check out the savings opportunity. We're going to focus on Zendesk since it's top of the list for us. As an example, I have purchased 27 licenses currently with only 10 employees leveraging them. It cost us $1,800, so I just applied how much it is per user per year for us, a simple middle layer of data. Based on what we're actually using with ActivTrak data, I currently have about $30K on the table in unused software license in just this one tool alone right now. And so again, I have the data to identify, which specific employees are using this tool, which ones are allocating their time well. So it's either a reminder about, hey, this tool is something you should be using for your role. It might be additional training for them, a gentle reminder, or this audit has identified a great cost-saving opportunity for me. Excellent. Okay, those are the reports that we had to show for y'all today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and kick it back to the team.
All right. Thanks so much, Leah. That was awesome. I feel very educated on all of the ways that you can use some of these. Some of these are things that we've had in the product for a while, and some of them have been tweaked. Like I know those alarms, we've made some updates to some of those to be more specific and helpful and, address some of those specific use cases. I did want to just mention, I know that we are almost out of time here, so I think we will have time for like one question, which we will get to. But if you would like to continue the conversation, so earlier we had a poll up, if you had wanted to get access to the HRIS integration, signals, and, a few other things. And so, you let us know there if you wanted to be followed up with. But if you just in a more general way would like a personalized demo, even if you're a customer, maybe you saw something that's on a higher level plan. Today we covered things that are on a mix of our plans, and actually in the slide deck. So you don't know this, but our slide deck, we actually do have several slides that covered each of the reports that Leah went through today. And it does show what plans that those are a part of. So if you want to take a look at that, that is in our resources section that I mentioned earlier. But if you'd like a personalized demo, if you'd like a quote, or if you would like your account team to just follow up with you, period, we will make sure that they get the message and that they do that. So please let me know. See, one question about will they, so please go ahead and pop in your responses there. Will you be able to access this video later? Absolutely. Actually, in this very same console, we will send out a link either later today or tomorrow, and you can click on that link and you will have access to this entire console with all the resources and everything. It will still work if you, send us a message to contact us, any of that. So we will definitely, send out the link to this to the email that you registered with. I think one of the other questions that we had was on the alarms. Can you take it a step further? So I think you were mentioning around, unauthorized usage of like an application. So I think like you mentioned one of the AI tools or something like that you have not approved. And so can you actually block the usage of that if that is something where you kind of need to lock down, your compliance policy?
There is actually a blocking feature in ActivTrak. Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. So we do have the ability to just straight up block some websites.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, let me see here. I think, is there an API option for license management? So does ActivTrak need to be updated if there are changes like in staffing?
An API option, is that, I'd like to know a little bit more, like in
Because I'm thinking about, like, I'm wondering if like our Azure AD or like any of those things would, help with that, because as people, as they update their systems on their side, then that sync would then apply to ActivTrak as well.
So there is the ability to, through integrated options like an Azure AD integration for group management or API, there is absolutely the ability to add individuals to a do not track list or a delete list. And so you can manage your license count through that mechanism where it reduces your license count. So yes, in that sense, for sure.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is, just to make sure that we have answered this question specifically, I think we'll follow up with you individually, just so we can kind of dig a little bit in and make sure that we get the right answer for you. So thank you for the question. And we are out of time. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I hope that each of you will also come to our ActivTrak 101 next Friday. Again, that is a great session to do some configuration housekeeping, making sure those reports, insights, they'll cover things outside of passive time, active time, all of those kinds of things. They will also cover other questions you have. So if you're like, hey, I want to cover how to set up an alarm, or I want to make sure I have it set up correctly, go to that session. They will cover it if you ask it. So I really highly encourage you to go to that session. We will have another live training like this session in 3 weeks on Thursday, October 30th. So we are working through the content for that, but I'm looking forward to that session. I hope to see all of you here. And thanks to Leah and Chris for just an awesome session today. And I hope everyone enjoyed it and has a great rest of their week. So thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks all.